All right, 99.9 Punk World Radio FM. You guys already know what time it is. And right here this Saturday night, we are joined by a punk rock legend. That's right. He is of the amazing legendary band Me First and the Gimme Gimmes. We got Spike Slawson right here live in the mix on 99.9 FM. Spike, how are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Can't complain.
I definitely can't complain for a Saturday night. I mean, down here in Canada, we're still dealing with a little bit of snow, which I thought we got past by now, but hopefully Mother Nature dumped the last load of snow on us, and hopefully we can get to that nice warm weather.
Yeah, I hope so too. We've been dealing with a lot of rain down here in San Francisco, but, we need it out west. That's for sure.
Yeah, one of my good friends lives out there in San Diego, and I guess, I don't know if about the same about San Francisco, but he was getting a crap ton of hail not too long ago, and I was like, man, I'm like, I'd rather the snow than golf ball size hail.
Yeah, I think they, somewhere in SoCal, they were flooding recently too, which is a drag. No, it's just been raining a lot, but that means we're going to get a really nice spring. So... But when it comes, as anybody's guess, it's raining today still.
But Spike, I know you're a very busy individual, so of course I'm not going to take you away from your Saturday night too long. But I got to take you back to the very early days of your career, where you worked in the mail order department of the legendary record label Fat Records. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a bit more about your humbling beginnings, and of course, how did you ultimately land that job and started working in the mail department at Fat Records?
I started working for a friend of mine, Mike Lavella, that did Gearhead magazine. He got me a job at a record distributor that used to be a label, and run by a notorious Bay Area scumbag that he released. He was the guy that first released the Subhumans. And not the English Subhumans, but the Canadian Subhumans and DOA records and the Avengers. And I think he crushed a lot of young creative types' dreams by, flashing sort of a nominal amount of money in front of them. And then just sort of like in the case of the Avengers, that was like that LP was a lot of their whole canon. So this dude controlling the rights to it was kind of at one point before I started working there, Billy Bragg actually showed up at the offices to reclaim his master tapes. So I worked there for a couple of years. At the end of which, I just was kind of doing damage control. I knew I wasn't going to get paid, but I wanted to send some people's shit back to them. So, and it was before UPS was computerized. And I don't know, Fat Mike was one of the labels that this distributor distributed. And for some reason, he gave me a job in the mailroom. And then, after a lot of pretty high profile mistakes, I sent band merchandise to the wrong continent in some cases. And so they figured I could do a lot less damage fronting the cover band that Mike and Joey had been talking about putting together for quite a while. So, yeah, that was about it. I think it was Mike probably took me on because I had been working sort of a shipping and receiving role at that prior distributor.
Well, I mean, also at the end of the day, it wasn't really your fault either about how stuff went to different continents. I mean, the UPS wasn't really computerized. It probably was a different process actually shipping that amount of quantity of packages at the same time. It must have been very different than how it is today. I mean, today you just walk into a UPS building and be like, hey, want to mail this? All right, $55, tap your card and go. But back then it was probably a more lengthy and more detailed process.
No, I don't know about that. I think what it is just that you didn't have when it was computerized. Presumably, you had it would check. Are you sure you want to send this package here? You know what I mean? So No, I think it was probably my fault, but it worked out for the best anyway. Um, my job is much more fun than shipping or receiving.
And one of the last questions I have is pertaining to like the mailroom days.
What's that?
I do know is I said one of the last questions I have actually pertaining to the mailroom days. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the Aquabats actually titled their song "Dear Spike" after your position actually at the at the shipping and receiving offices. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about your thoughts when you actually first heard the Aquabats' "Dear Spike" song, and of course, how long did it take you to know that there was actually a song out there actually about you?
Well, it's an honor to be immortalized, in song. Uh, I can't speak to how accurate it is, because their version is probably better, than anything I could come up with. I was drinking a lot at the time. I was a shitty employee. I was a somewhat better front person. Yeah, I don't know. There's room to move as a shipping clerk. Yeah, and as far as the Aquabats, it is an honor and a privilege to be sung about by the likes of them. Absolutely. And I dig their I gotta say, like, I respect their presentation, you know. It takes a lot to write songs, I'll admit that, and to sort of like to devise a whole set of original live music, but you might have run 100 miles, but you still had one to go if you're still wearing Hurley. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta, you're under a proscenium arch, and so you got to act accordingly. And I think the world is finally coming back around to my way of thinking in that regard, and sort of is not that have that weird fetishistic obsession with realness or reality, whatever the hell that means. Like board shorts are a choice, are a stylistic choice too. I might not agree with it, but it's still a stylist. You made a stylistic choice before you went to go play in front of people. But the Aquabats, that's a whole different thing entirely. And that's probably why they're so popular. Don't they have like a children's program that they do now?
I actually didn't. I didn't know what the children's program aspect side of things, but I do know the Aquabats have a very unique look on stage. But I mean, their music just once you hear them play and once you see them live, I mean, you don't even notice what they're wearing anymore. You're just amazed by just how well their stage presence is music wise.
Yes. But I think, I believe that we're not necessarily that one thing sort of informs how we feel about the other thing, and I think it's a subconscious thing. When you see people coming out dressed for the roles, like one of the things that impressed me, like the Hives, they really have it together as far as like
Yeah.
they look like a unit that has come to like entertain you and blow your face off. But furthermore, their crew guys dress as ninjas. You know what I mean? Have you ever seen them? Like they're and they
Yeah.
do somersaults while they like change somebody's guitar cable. You know what I mean? Like that's that's the icing on the cake, but the devil is in the details. So, and while I may think that I am just it's pure musical appreciation, I don't think you can separate one from the other, certainly not in a live context. But I would say the same thing with LPs, which is sort of like the classic way to enjoy music, which is to just sort of like look at the liner notes, open up the gatefold, and trip out on some kind of image or collage or whatever it is, and you're communing with the music in that way. But it's not the same without it, right? Like it's how it gets into your brain, not just
And
through the.
also we gotta Oh, my apologies, Spike. I was just saying we got a fan comment here from an individual called Resting Bitchface. She said the Gimme's road crew in the red zipper vests.
That's that's where I got the idea. That is where we got the idea to dress guys in the classic MJ vests was from the Hives. Like I'll admit it, Um, but most good ideas, we're all standing on somebody's shoulders, right? Like it. Um, but yes, that's where that originated, and it's just another presentation. Costumes. When you're dressed like somebody else, you have the freedom to sort of to be somebody else. There's again like the weird fetishistic obsession with being real or being accurate or being like a sort of realistic reflection of the person you believe yourself to be. Like that's not, I don't think that that's entertaining particularly. And if you're talking about punk, especially over the last, 40 years or so, a lot of it's like middle class white kids angrily yelling, man. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of, you know, it like and you contrast that with the people in it that before punk ever had a name, and they weren't scared of image propulsion or stylistic flourishes. That was the whole way that they, that they wanted to be. That was how they got seen and noticed, and how they got like in newspapers was the way that they presented themselves. Like it's been said, and incredibly so, I would say that the Sex Pistols were a boy band, so to speak, because they were kind of a manufactured uh, group. But it just so happens that they were manufactured to be a group that I really liked and that really resonated at the time to such an extent that we're still talking about it and people are still playing like them years later, which is kind of like completely against the point that they were trying to make initially, I guess, like that's essentially what they were talking about when they wanted to, they listened to Emerson, Lake and Palmer and said like rock and roll has lost its way. I would argue that, you listen to a lot of what is out these days and you could say that punk rock has lost its way, or that to go even further, that it has no right to exist anymore, given that it's 50 years later and we are faced with a whole different set of challenges. Like in England, it was garbage strikes, right? And like street riots or street parties that turned into street riots. If you ever watch that Don Letts movie that he did recently, it was a documentary about like the cultural genesis of London punk music, and he posited that it was these riots that went down in Caribbean parts of London, and white kids and black kids got together and set fires and turned cars over and just like were kind of fed up. But it was also a street party, and he argues that's the cultural genesis of punk rock in England. In 2024, we're looking at a whole different set of challenges. And so I think we need a whole different, but I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the way everything is set up now, if it's everything is so easily co-opted as soon as it comes out, before it ever kind of like, because if it's not word of mouth, if it's just something like online, then it's cheapened somehow, right? Like it's not really like, do we have any more just sort of organic like youth movements in us? Like, I don't know. I hope so, but and I still dig punk, the style of music, like it's just the kind of raw, fast rock and roll. And there's still a lot of great groups but most of the ones that I like play as if they were from 40 years ago, if that makes any sense. Like I don't necessarily like the you know, the so-called evolution a lot of the times has kind of like lost me, you know.
And also, we have another fan question that just chimed in from Josh Webster. He actually asked, "Well, will Me First and the Gimme Gimmes ever cover the song Dear Spike?" I figured since we just talked about that, and I think that's a great idea as well, personally as well. If you guys ever will cover it, so when I saw that come through, I definitely wanted to ask that. So definitely, great question, Josh.
Um, you know what? I would rather give them the last word on that song. There's a lot of like we've never done the Kinks before, for example, and we never will because they I got nothing to add if that makes any sense. The song was perfect as it was, and there'd be something kind of incestuous about me singing a song, Dear Spike. But never say never, right?
And also as well, July 29th of 1997, you guys actually released your very first studio album that consisted of 12 tracks titled Have a Ball. Looking back on that legendary project, can you tell us the story behind it? And of course, how did you guys actually come up with the very unique track list to tribute?
So that all that stuff was Mike and Joey, and like why I think it probably why because I like the record too. Why it was good is probably naivete. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know how to do it at that time. I didn't really know those songs. I didn't really like those songs either. They were all sort of chosen for me, if that makes any sense, by Mike and Joey, who who had the long-standing idea to start this cover band, just because it can get serious in bands, and they wanted something that was a little bit less serious, if that makes any sense. Like their so-called real bands were, it can be a lot, and what was the question?
Oh, just the question was like, well, can you tell us the story behind this amazing album?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I was getting there. My dis the fact that I disliked these songs, I think ended up being the chemistry that made it work, because getting them from the way they were, which I did not like, to something that I could recognize and dig, was and I don't know if I consciously did it. There were definitely people coaching me to do it. And like I said, like there are other serious bands, I think they were very meticulous about how they wanted it to sound and how they wanted to present audio recordings, whereas we wanted things to be in pitch, and in time and all that kind of stuff, but we didn't really sweat it that much. And so I feel like a successful record, is an event in time that sort of snowballs until it resonates either as that event actually was, or as people infer that event to be, because there's any as with any successful recording, also there's this kind of a mythology that builds around it that may have nothing to do with what the actual artists and musicians intended. So personally, I think it was naivete that made it resonate and made it something, because it is that Aura Drag is probably my favorite, but Have a Ball is up there with me too. As far as like actual anecdotes about recording the record, again, I was drinking pretty heavily at the time, as I told you before, and I don't remember. There's a lot that I don't remember about that recording process. But I feel like AM like adult contemporary from the 60s and 70s, like that's kind of our métier, you know, like that's where we're supposed to be. That might have something to do with why it was successful too, is that like, and those songs, like even if I didn't like them, the more I listened to them, the more I could kind of dig the chord changes and the melodies, and you know, yeah.
And also, as well, aside from Me First and the Gimme Gimmes for a few minutes, I do know you have been a member of many other amazing bands, but the one other project that you actually were a part of was a band called the Swingin' Udders. I was wondering
Yes.
if you can actually just tell us a bit more about that band, and of course, can you tell us a bit more about how you actually happened to, how it happened to come to be how you actually replaced Kevin after he departed on the bass? How did that opportunity come to be for you?
Yeah, Kevin, I think you went off to teach back east, in fact, and I think he is still back east. Last I heard, he was in New Haven. Um, and yeah, that was Mike's doing, actually. When Kevin quit, Mike heard that there was a vacancy in the group, and Max asked me if I wanted to do it. I had never played bass. So Max's girlfriend, Lisa, at the time lent me she had like kind of a miniature, I think it was a Mustang or something like that. And I started playing and traveling with them, and they're still uh, great friends. Still see them all the time.
Was it a difficult transition actually? Because obviously, the Me First and the Gimme Gimmes, you're a lead singer, and I know you do play the ukulele as well. Was it a difficult transition actually, just picking up the bass guitar for the first time and just jumping into such a very at this time as well? The Swingin' Udders were a very well known band at the time as well.
Yes. Um, yeah, it was really cool to play some of the songs on streets of San Francisco, because I remember when that record came out, and I actually was living in San Francisco at the time, and that record made quite a big splash. And I don't know, it was very gratifying to play some of those songs that I had already been a fan of. The basses, I mean, I had been playing guitar with the obvious caveats, of guitar players playing bass. That doesn't always work out, but I think eventually I figured it out what the bass is for. Took me a while though.
And also as well, June 23rd of 1998, Swingin' Udders actually released their fourth studio album titled Five Lessons Learned. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about that album, and of course, what was it like just actually doing backup vocals for that particular project?
It was fun. That was sort of the introductory orientation process. It's when I met everybody in addition to Max, whom I had already known just from around, and um uh it was fun. Razor's Edge was still out on Divisadero Street. That, like, a lot of classic records had been recorded there. Stuff was still being recorded to tape, which was good too. Which I don't know. I kind of prefer it. I don't know if I could tell the difference if you played me something with like on tape versus like a digital session, but I like that tape requires discipline. Like, you can still punch with tape, and the engineer at the time, Ryan Green,
Yeah.
he was very good with his hands around, like, punching. Like, he could punch inside of vocal phrases and guitar parts and drum. Like, he had magic hands as far as like punching in and out. But when you're recording to tape, like, you got to be good enough to have at least something to make a loop from, right? Like all those disco records, they might have been looped, to make extended dance mixes or whatever, but the players had to be good to come up with that loop of like just perfect Like you don't want to hear a drummer, you don't want to hear a bass player, you want to hear music, right? And I know they worked really hard and were that was their real band. You know what I mean? Like they were very meticulous and took it very seriously. And I think it shows in like especially, I mean, the songwriting too, but the sonic quality of that record is really great and uncompromising. It was fun to
And
be a
I know as well that. Oh, my apologies, Spike. I was going to say as well, I do know, if I'm not mistaken, the album's title track was also used in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 as well. I was wondering, do you actually recall how this song actually ended up on such a legendary soundtrack like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2? And of course, what was it like just hearing a part of yourself actually on a video game? Because I mean, around these times, Tony Hawk was just going wild.
Yeah, but I didn't play it. I didn't play the video game, so I never heard it on the video game. But how I think it got there was probably a publicist that worked either for the Swinging Utters or for Fat themselves. I don't think at the time labels like Fat or Epitaph had to do a hard sell. You know what I mean? I think like video game, especially a skating video game, I think they were probably, hey, what's new? What do you guys got that's new? You know what I mean? Like I never did play it. I think around that time I was probably playing like GoldenEye on Nintendo 64 or something like that. That's a classic. No, that's pretty cool. And at the time, it was one of those things because that was sort of the tail end of the concept of selling actual physical records, and to be featured in a video game was a great way to sell records. A great way to promote the band. Yeah.
And I do know as well, like obviously, like later on throughout the years as well, your music was also featured on another skateboarding game called Skate back in the mid 2000s as well. I remember that because I remember picking up the game when I was younger, and I just remember seeing your guys' names. I was like, okay, that's cool, and I made the connection just as a punk rock fan.
The Swinging Utters, you mean?
Yes, Swinging Utters, yeah. It was actually placed in the actual Skate game as well a couple years later on, I think, the Xbox 360 and PS3 variations. Totally different than Tony Hawk, but just a different video game with that different video game with skateboarding.
Man, all I play is golf anymore.
Hey, you can't go wrong with golf, man. I mean, it's fun.
I love golf.
You can't go wrong with golf. It's fun, yeah.
I don't mean real golf. I mean like video game golf. That's the only video game I even play anymore. I don't know. Although they just rub
also as well.
Instagram is kind of a video game, I guess.
But I will admit, though, some of those new golfing video games actually are so realistic. It's insane. The Tiger Woods PGA Tour. I mean, it really feels like you are actually Tiger Woods.
Yeah. Yes. I love it.
Those graphics, but the good thing is though, you feel like you're Tiger Woods, but you don't have your ex-wife swinging a golf club at you. I know it's a terrible joke, but
Tiger Woods without the genital warts. What are you gonna do?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. But also as well, Spike, in February 20th of 2003. You were actually a part of the Real Mackenzie's 4-studio album titled Out and a Boot. I was wondering, how did you actually get connected with these fine Canadian punk rock legends, and of course, what was it like just working alongside them for this particular project?
Well, the studio had moved at that time and it was called Motor. It would be called Motor Studios. It was pretty cool. Occasionally I was there when they were there or when they were awake. But for the most part, I just kind of like went in, did my thing. if they had opinions, they would offer them, and then I just kind of split. Like, we're on the same coast. I'm pretty familiar with Vancouver as a city and a phenomenon. Spent a lot of time in East Hastings, just sort of wandering around because it's like you're going into a world upside down. But unlike here in the States, you can actually do it without being like stabbed or hit over the head. You know what I mean? Like, and it's I've always, I don't know. Vancouver's a weird thing. Vancouver's a weird sort of object, like lesson in what I don't want San Francisco to become, if that makes any sense. Just this hyper modern, like just sort of anonymous looking. And then obviously the place where everybody wants to go is the historic Victorian part, Gastown. And but it seems like they can't knock stuff down fast enough everywhere else. So I usually end up spending most of my time in Gastown, and then I always like, it's morbid curiosity that makes me wander into East Hastings, just because it's a world upside down, all enthralled to a plant. You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty incredible, right? Like, and now fentanyl, which is like when that first started happening, places like East Hastings and parts of Portland, Oregon, and here and Los Angeles, like we've really turned a corner in a lot of ways since COVID. It feels like, and it doesn't feel like like these things were necessarily new developments, but just sort of accelerations of phenomena that had already existed. But yeah, the real Mackenzies are pretty cool. We still see them.
I definitely, I was gonna say, I definitely agree with you on the whole fentanyl thing, man. It's insane. You don't even have to be a drug addict to die from it, man. I mean, like, someone can just put it in your hand and it dissolves, and then you're actually like, you could OD, man. It's a scary thing, man. You don't even really know. People can just walk by and put it in anything at a grocery store, and next thing you know, it's definitely a scary time, man, to be alive. But
6 million
when we turn 80, you're
choose one.
Literally. It's like the Spike TV television show, man. You don't really know how you're gonna go, but hopefully you can beat all the odds.
Yeah, hopefully. For a little while, anyway. That's knock wood.
But also, as well, aside from Fat Records, where Me First and the Gimme Gimmes are currently signed, you guys are also signed to a Tokyo, Japan record label called Pizza of Death Records. I was wondering if you could just tell us a story behind this amazing record deal, and of course, how did you guys ultimately get discovered by this Tokyo, Japan-based label?
Well, we did some Japanese songs. Again, this was Mike's idea. And I think, and this is something I appreciate and admire quite a bit, which is you just sort of like, you should always have goals in mind. And I think Mike wanted to go to Japan, which that's a great goal in and of itself. And so let's sing some songs in Japan and see if we can get people into it, and then because flying out to Japan and Australia, like, that's a long way, and those are expensive plane tickets that you got to pay down. Yeah, I think it was just a question of wanting to go, and wanting to have a release that would be successful. But I think we obviously knew that it was going to have like a limited scope of success anywhere other than Japan. But I do remember when we were recording it down in the valley, that a couple of Mike's friends and business associates from Japan were in town, and he brought them over to the studio to listen to some of the roughs. And I was in the room, and I remember, and it was just sort of like, there was this moment of just sort of quiet, nervous, awkward tension as they were first listening and kind of keening their ears in. And then like they weren't saying anything, and suddenly in unison they just started to bust out laughing. And so I thought, like that's the Gimme Gimmes. That's our ultimately what we want from the listener / viewer. And so yeah. And we did, I want to say like 5 or 6 songs. And we went to Japan, and we're going back to Japan this year. We're probably going to play those same songs. I love it out there. There's a lot to be said for and you as a Canadian, you know what I mean? Understand the difference, south of the border between, you know what I mean? Like there's a different set of expectations of what people are going to do, of what strangers on the street are going to do. You know what I mean? And in Japan, they have fucking lockers, like public lockers. Like you pay and get a key out and put your stuff in it while you go to work or while you go someplace. And then you come back 6 hours or a week later and it's still there. You know what I mean? Like that's unheard of.
I mean, even here in Canada, if there's public lockers here in Canada, Spike. I mean, if you could leave it there for like a week, but you come back and the lock would be jimmied, and you'd be like, "Why is my damn book bag empty?" Like what?
Absolutely no. Canada is a place too, but I don't know. Violent crime is not something I worry about nearly as much in a Canadian city as and the same goes for Japanese cities. And it's a nice sort of baseline to be able to sort of take for granted that, these are some things that nobody's going to try to do to me. It's nice. It's liberating. And I love the food. I love, this it's very cliched, but I love the old meeting the new. That's what a lot of people say about Japan, but it is pretty amazing. It's like being in a long hallway,
And also as well, they treat individuals like yourself like gold. I mean, at the end of the day, I've heard many stories from many bands when they go over there, whether they're independent, just getting into the music scene, or a legendary individual like yourself. They treat everybody that comes over to perform music like honestly, like guests of honor.
Yeah, well, the weird thing, and at first it's very weird, but they applaud, and then they go dead silent when you start talking. Even if they don't understand a word, they go dead silent because somebody's talking. And that was really unnerving at first. And then somebody explained it to me. It's like, no, man, like somebody's talking, so we're going to shut up, like it's, and there are all sorts of weird little things like that. That, it certainly gives you a perspective on where you live, and not you personally, the royal where I live, and what I take for granted as normal. But a better way is always possible.
And also as well, since we actually had Fat Mike, it was a reason why that this label actually got in contact with you guys and whatnot. Wrestling Bitchface actually asked again, will Fat Mike ever return to the Gimmes?
He hasn't really gone away except in as far as bass guitar duties. He's still he's still very opinionated and lets us know what those opinions are. And very much so, even if behind the scenes he's very much involved in the Gimmes and whatever direction we're taking at any given time.
And I know as well, with especially he's super busy with the NoFX stuff going on right now, because I do know they're going on their last round of touring there soon, and I just gotta say, definitely shout out to him, man. One of the best punk rock musicians to ever do it, and if anyone deserves retirement, it's definitely Fat Mike, man. He has been doing this for so many years. I really hope when he puts his feet up, he actually gets to enjoy it and gets to relax.
He's got a lot going on. He's still got a lot of logs in the fire, so to speak. The Punk Rock Museum in Las Vegas, as with any museum, is a work in progress. Although the work that's already been done is stellar, and stands on its own. It is a work in progress, and there is a lot of work to be done, and he's very hands-on with that. I know he's got a lot of other musical projects that he's either involved in playing with or producing, or he knows how to stay busy, that guy. So I don't know, putting his feet up, don't know. But yeah, I mean, he's certainly busy right now.
And also, as well, May 13th of 2014, you guys actually released the amazing 12-track item, album, sorry, titled "We Are Not Men, We Are Diva." I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a bit more about this amazing album. And of course, do you guys have any plans to re-release a 10th anniversary vinyl or even digital edition this year in 2024?
That's generally Fat's prerogative to decide when, how, or even if something like that's going. But you know what? It seems like they've been pretty on top of doing things like that. So wow, it is going to be 10 years. God, and we haven't even released anything since then. We're working on it. Yeah. I mean, me in a dress, that's really hard to look at sometimes, because I just, all I can think of is I look like my mom, which is really weird. And it was, it's hard to pick a theme, especially one as narrow, and I didn't think it was going to be but like divas, and you would think there are so many divas in the world, but only so many songs that are like, so to speak, in our wheelhouse. So that was a very challenging record to put together. Cher was an obvious choice, Britney Spears. If we even did Britney Spears, I don't remember. No, I don't think we did. We tried, you see, but it didn't pan out. So I'm pretty happy with that record. Absolutely.
And when you say it,
go ahead.
I was gonna say Spike. When you said it didn't pan out, was it because Britney's like lawyers wouldn't actually let you guys cover it, or like what exactly happened with the Britney Spears cover?
No, it was just that we couldn't make it into something that we could dig. We couldn't make it. It's I don't know. That like I said, with the songs that I didn't like from those first, like, because I don't like show tunes. I didn't particularly like a lot of that AM rock. I don't like Neil Diamond. I don't like John Denver. Don't like that stuff. But the transformation into something that I liked and was proud of was what was key. And you figure out pretty soon if you're not going to be able to do that. Within the first 10 minutes, like, this is not, it's not going to work out for us, because, I don't know, we might not be a one-trick pony, but we're like a 3-trick pony, and when you try your grab bag out on any given song, and it's 20 minutes later and you still haven't made it into something you like, then it's probably time to move on. And I think that was the case with Britney. But Christina Aguilera qualifies. She's a diva, and she's from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is my hometown. So that's also, that was nice. Yeah. Karen Carpenter, although, like, I don't think it's really fair to call her a diva. I think we just kind of bent the rules a little bit. And given that she was female, it's not really kind of a smear almost. You know what I mean? Because she was a serious person. Like, do you ever see her play the drums? Like,
I
there's
have,
video of
yeah.
her playing the. Man, what a
She's
monster!
mean on the drums, like a
Yeah,
mean.
and not a diva, and like just with this totally like humble, bearing an aspect about her, and like anything but a diva. But, we needed a 12th song or whatever it was. So, and I like, the Gimmies can't go wrong with the Carpenters. That's one of those groups like Billy Joel or Neil Diamond or John Denver. Like, it's just like we were built to play those songs.
And also as well, I know you do know you actually revealed that you will be going back to Japan at some point this year. But
Oh yeah.
also as well, you guys are gearing up early summer to actually venture out to Europe from June 21st to July 6th. Me First and the Gimme Gimmes are going to be traveling all through Europe for your guys' 2024 Europe tour. I was wondering, what can your fans actually expect from this early summer tour? And of course, where can we actually snag ourselves some tickets if they are indeed still available and not sold out?
They can expect me to get some dental surgery, some other some other medical procedures. No, uh, yeah. So we're going out to Europe, and though we are not going to Spain, we last year, almost a year ago now, we played a young girl's quinceañera party in San Diego, California, and that recording is going to be a live record, sort of like Ruin Johnny's Bar Mitzvah was. Only we ruined this poor girl's quinceañera party, and but there was DJ music too, and there were snacks, and like, so they had a good time. Like, it wasn't just us, because literally nobody there. Unlike at the bar mitzvah, where I think there were at least a few people who knew who we were and knew what to expect. At this quinceañera party, there was nobody. Nobody knew us from Adam, and nor were they particularly inclined to like us. And so for the first set, the floor was empty. In fact, there were people leaving, and I don't think there were definitely some people that didn't appreciate the off-color jokes. And but then there was an intermission. There was some dancing. There was DJ music. Like I said, people ate. Maybe they went out and vaped. I don't know. And when we came back, the second set ended up being people were out on the floor. They were holding light sticks. They were dancing. And so that, like I said, any great record is an event that resonates through time. This was an actual event that was not just like 5 people getting together with an engineer in a studio. It was an actual event that we had to play these songs right one time, and had to try to win the crowd over. So you can sort of hear that happening in the recording. And it's sort of like a not a metaphor, maybe an example. It's exemplary of the way we like to sort of like cast the line way out until maybe up until the point and beyond of like actual um like actual audible displays of displeasure, and you know what I mean, until people like get almost to the point of booing, and even to the point of booing. And then when we get them to that point, we try to reel them back, and we don't always succeed, which is kind of what's so exciting for us, is that we're able to troll an audience. And I can't tell if Europeans get it. You know what I mean? Some of them get sarcasm and some of them don't, but they seem to dig us out there. Like, like no matter, like we've had highs and lows in places, different regions all throughout the world, but we've always gone back to Europe. So I guess, I think they like it. And it's almost seems like the worse that you treat them and the worse that you troll them, like the more merchandise you end up selling that night, if that makes any sense. I really think like it's the same thing with comedians. Like there's like if you show like a disdain, like almost like a genuine disdain and disrespect for people, it's like they want more. It's a really weird thing. But then there's a line that you don't cross, because once you cross that, then it's impossible to reel them back in.
Because when you actually say that's your guys' stage presence, I have to ask, because obviously you guys have done thousands upon thousands of shows within your career, different countries, obviously Europe, Japan, like obviously U.S. because you lived there, and many other countries. Do you remember the worst crowd you ever had, where you actually could not reel them back in, and you're like, crap, I don't even know if we can make it off stage tonight? Like, have you ever had one of those really bad crowds that really did genuinely turn out to hate Me First and the Gimme Gimmes?
Yes. So we got, and I still don't know why it happened. I think maybe it was a prank that somebody that was leaving the Pirates organization, like he was an executive with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I think he was leaving the organization and maybe wanted like to shoot a parting shot at a company for some reason or another, and he hired us to play Fireworks Night, and which is like a 3-night extravaganza. And when this happened, because this would have been like the early aughts at some point, Barry Bonds was gone. So the Pirates were not winning anything. So the only thing that brings people out, Pittsburghers and worse, the people from the sticks outside of Pittsburgh, in is Fireworks Night into like PNC Park. It used to be Three Rivers when I went to go see games. But and so if you were one of the 35,000 people or so that like ended up booing us within about like 10 or 15 minutes, that you probably thought like, man, like the Pirates, they can't even hire a decent band. You know what I mean? For Fireworks Night. This is the only night that I come into town to enjoy PNC Park and watch the game because the fireworks happen. And they like seriously, they put fireworks like from the baseball diamond, from barges out on the Allegheny River, from the old US Steel building. Like it's crazy. And so people come in for the spectacle, and like it actually made headlines the next day that we ruined Fireworks Night. And for me, it was like I was in my hometown, and there were fireworks, like I said, launching off of barges on the Allegheny River, off of skyscrapers, like M500s that were exploding all around us on the baseball field, because they wheeled us out on this sort of impromptu stage, and luckily out of projectile range too. And there were at least 30,000 people booing us all at once, and it lasted for about like 15 to 20 minutes until we got wheeled off and then counseled by somebody from the Pirates organization, like, maybe give it an hour or two before you guys leave. And that would have to be the worst. And like, I still have not, like, I'm proud of it, because like to actually have been like applauded at such an event would have been far worse for our credibility and reputation. But in the moment, like it was pretty heavy. I still have not been able to bring myself to watch the video of it, because it's obvious there's got to be video like on like Fox Sports or something like that, some kind of archival stuff, but I can't do it. It was just too weird.
I was gonna say, I gotta commend you as well, Spike, for just for just actually playing that long of a set with all these people booing. I mean, I guess that's why I'm a DJ and I'm not a musician. You know what I mean? That's why I'm at the back rather than the front. Because I don't know. I think if people were booing for that long, I probably would have said, you know what, screw this. I would have walked off. But the fact that you guys stood up there, did your set, did your business, I mean,
there was no way to go.
I commend you.
There was nowhere to go. They literally wheeled us out, and then they had this thing where they played the real song. They chose the songs that we were going to do, and then they had this weird thing where they asked some of the players who their favorite artists were. They played a few bars of the original song, and then we would play the song ourselves. And then one of the songs they picked for us was Sweet Caroline, which is the Boston Red Sox fight song. Oh. And that was when the booing started sort of like in earnest. And then it just sort of like caught on like wildfire. But I mean, after that, like, there's not much that you're scared of, man.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta say, like, I thought it was one of those, like, little, even though they did wheel you out, I thought it was one of those stages you could have had at least an escape route where you could have just dove off the stage or something like that, but the fact that you were still stuck up there, man, it is crazy, but like you kind of mentioned, it definitely kind of sounded like something on purpose, man. The fact they gave you the Boston Sweet Caroline fight song, I mean, that just, I don't know, man, they definitely knew what they were tossing into that lineup.
Yeah, I mean, it was like being on acid or something like that. I was in the town that I grew up in, you know, and being a nerdy kid in that town was not the greatest experience in the world, much as I love Pittsburgh and most Pittsburghers. But like to have that many people booing you in the town that you grew up in, and then like an M500 blowing up to your left. And then I turned around, and I think it was Dave on the drums that said, like, are they booing us? And I said, I think so. And Mike looked at me and he just had this big smile, like a shit-eating grin on his face. Like, yeah, isn't it great? And I just had to turn around. Like, I'm not going to look at you guys anymore, man. Like, you know, we're just going to finish this. And then I think I did like a wave on the way out during the booze, and that was it. I got a Pirates jersey out of the deal, with my name on it, you know, which was kind of a big deal. Like the Public Enemy P, you know what I mean, and the Willie Stargell pillbox hat. Like those are iconic. And I used to go see the Pirates a lot as a kid, you know, back during the classic period, like Stargell, Kent Colby, John Candelaria, Manny Sanguian. We used to go all the time.
And also, I have to ask, because obviously I do know we only covered like not even 5% of your legendary career here this evening on the radio station, but I have to ask, what is next for yourself? And of course, me first in the Gimme Gimmes. Like, is there anything we happen to miss during this evening's interview? Anything else you do still want to touch on, talk about, or promote? Well, we still got you here live on the radio station airwaves tonight.
So, some years ago, it's crazy to think how many now that it's been since COVID, but in 2019. I and some dear friends in Panama City got together and worked up a bunch of cover versions of old classic boleros, which are like love songs, classic Spanish, Latin American love songs, and over 2 sessions, we recorded an LP's worth of stuff, and it's finally about to come out. And the group is called Los Nuevos Bajos, which means the new lows in Spanish. And I love it. These are songs that I love, but we were able to change them enough so that, I feel, that it's relevant and that they stand on their own, and that they are different enough, but that they honor the source material enough, because I really love that music. Like a lot of the groups that we would have covered would have been like Los Panchos, Los Tres Diamantes, Los Tres Ases. A lot of the groups were trios, were so-called trios. Like they would have like backing music, backing musicians, but if you're looking like at videos of them playing, like, not Ed Sullivan, but whatever the say Mexican or Colombian counterpart of that was, whenever you see them playing like live engagements, you only see the principal three people, and they usually virtuoso guitar players, and then they would all sing in harmony. That seems to be kind of the hallmark of the trios groups from around the middle of the 20th century. And a friend of mine turned me on to Los Panchos, man, like 25 years ago or something like that. And ever since then, I've just been people have been turning me on to other groups within that same genre. And every time I would go to TJ, or recently we went to the Mexico City for the first time, I go and seek out those records. And it was really a gas to be able to play these songs and come up with verses, and with Panamanian players, and because the drummers down there are not fucking around, the drummers and percussionists, and you can hear it on the recording. And the LP is going to be called Rebájate con los nuevos bajos, is what it means, which means I essentially lower yourself with los nuevos bajos, get down, I guess, so to speak. And so I don't know. I hope you dig it.
And I gotta say as well, I definitely love just the fact of how many bands you've been a part of in your career, and how many different kind of genres of music that you could really perform. I mean, you go from Me First and the Gimme Gimmes, then of course this amazing band, and Swingin' Utters as well. I mean, you're such a talented individual, and also on top of the bass, and of course being a lead singer, you're also a ukulele player as well, man. I mean, I really think there is nothing in the music industry that Spike Slawson cannot do. I mean, you're a jack of all trades.
I appreciate that. I don't know. There's stuff that I won't do, but that's neither here nor there. That's just stuff that's not in the wheelhouse. That's, I don't know. Well, I appreciate your saying that. That's very, very kind of you to say. And I hope you like Los Nuevos Bajos, and our new record. And I should say that we already have a 7-inch. If you can't wait, it's on Del Corazon Records, based right out of right here in San Francisco. And it's a 2-song 7-inch with 2 of the songs from that LP. So if you want to check that out, please do. Del Corazon Records. If you can't find it in a store, you can contact them, and I'm sure they'll be happy to help you.
And also, Spike, before we actually part ways here tonight, obviously I know how to follow you on social media, but for the individuals that might not be that social media savvy, or might be a fan but also have not followed you yet on social media, which I think if they're a fan, they definitely should be already following you. But how can they actually go about following not only yourself, but of course Me First and the Gimme Gimmes if they're not already doing so? That way they can stay updated on these amazing new projects you currently have in the works, and of course these the European and Japan tour as well that's coming up.
Well, I don't know if people should follow me. I mainly just post pictures of like dead people. But if you're S_, Alfred Slawson is my Instagram handle. And Gimme Gimmes Band is me first in the Gimme Gimmes Insta handle. Revolts SF. That's been a clearinghouse for several years of any original music ideas I've had, for better or worse. And UCunt. I don't remember the actual the for it, but we're there. And then expect to hear from Los Nuevos Bajos. We haven't been keeping up with social media. I guess we're from the wrong generation, but once we have something more to talk about, we shall. But like you
And
said,
I gotta say,
sorry, the if you want to know about Japanese tour dates, if you want to know, we're heading back east, coming up in April, going to Europe in June, gonna hit the West Coast in August. Check it out on Gimme Gimmes Band on Instagram. Will keep you in the know, if that's where you want to be.
I gotta say as well, Spike. First and foremost, man, thank you so much for a bit of your time here this evening, man. It was such an honor to speak with you. Like I told you before we went live, been a huge fan of your career for a very long time. So the fact that I had the opportunity to actually interview the man himself on my radio station was such a tremendous honor. I wish you nothing but best of luck in your travels this year. It sounds like me first and the Gimme Gimmes have a very busy touring schedule this year, but I wish you guys safe travels. And of course, I know I don't need to wish you luck during these shows, but I do know you're going to tear the roof off each and every venue that you visit. So thank you so much for your time, Spike.
We're going to alienate a lot of people, and then, we're going to get some of them back. That's just, that's the mechanics.
Population control.
Yeah, that's, exactly. Thank you. That's what we do. It's just, it's out of my hands.
Hey, it's true. And if you don't listen to me first in the Gimme Gimmes, then, you're going to have to pretty much, yeah. And then that's when you become alienated, man. If you don't listen, if you're not a fan, you get alienated. If you are a fan, then you survive. So, you better find a couple songs that you like. That way you can survive.
But yes, we got to find some common ground. That's right.
But again, Spike, thank you so much, man. It was such an honor speaking with you. Again, man, such a legend in the music industry, and I can't wait to hear this brand new album that does come out whenever it does drop to the general public. And people that are listening, make sure, if you can't wait and you're really hungry for it, make sure you head on over and buy that double song 7-inch.
That's right. Gema and Cien Años are the two songs that, and they're classics in and of themselves, but I think we do them justice. I hope we do. But please check it out.
But definitely, Spike, thank you so much again, man. Have yourself a phenomenal night. And of course, a kick-ass weekend as well. Hopefully down the line we can make this happen again sometime soon.
And you. I hope it warms up out there, man.
Oh, I definitely hope so as well, man. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Have a good one.